Good morning, everybody. So today we are going to see the important topic in neonatology, neonatal seizure. I am Dr. Tarbia Bandi, Associate Professor, Department of Pediatrics, SLIMS. So most frequent distinctive clinical manifestation of the neurological dysfunction of the newborn is seizure. Neonates with neonatal seizure have high risk of death during the neonatal period, and they are also having neurological impairment or epilepsy disorder in the later life. The mortality due to the neonatal seizure will be decreased over the decade, is decreased from 40 to 20% over the year. Prevalence of long-term neurodevelopment sequelae remain unchanged, around 30%. Long-term sequelae never changed, same. Mortality due to the advanced therapeutic technique is reduced, but the long-term neurological development sequelae is unchanged. So, what is the epidemiology of neonatal seizure? The incidence will be 10.3 per 1,000 live births. The incidence inversely proportional to the gestational age and birth weight. What do you mean by inversely proportional? The gestational age increases, the incidence of the neonatal seizure decreases. So, preterm, they have more incidence to develop seizure. Birth weight. If low birth weight, baby have more chance to develop neonatal seizure. So incidence will be more on low birth weight babies compared to normal. So incidence inversely proportional to the gestational age. So what is the incidence in preterm? Yeah, it's twice higher. Term is 8.4%. Preterm 20.8% per 1,000 lives. In very low birth weight babies, mostly preterm babies. So preterm and very low birth weight babies, the incidence will be fourfold increase, higher than 36.1% per 1,000 lives. So what is the definition? There are so many definitions will be there. Clinical definition, they are dividing into epileptic seizure, non-epileptic seizure, and ECG seizure. So what is the clinical definition? The paroxysmal alteration in neurological function. That is motor, behavior, and autonomic functions. Any paroxysmal alteration, motor, behavior, or autonomic function is called it as a seizure. It's a clinical definition. This definition includes epileptic seizure, non-epileptic seizure, EEG seizure. What do you mean by epileptic seizure? Clinical correlation to the EEG changes. Both should be present at the same time. Then we will see the next. So epileptic seizure means clinically child will having seizure. If you see in the EEG monitoring, there is a spike. Changes, EEG changes will be also present. So clinically child having seizure and EEG changes will be also present, is called as epileptic seizure. What is non-epileptic seizure? Only clinical seizure will be there, but no change in the EEG. What is EEG seizure? There is a no seizure activity you can observe clinically, but EEG changes seizure will be present. So these are the types of our clinical seizures. So what is the pathophysiology? Due to the immature brain of the newborn, It's having more acceptability. So they're more liable for developing seizure. This is due to defective balance between excitatory or inhibitory neurotransmission. This is important pathophysiology of neurotransmission. Seizure. So classification. We have the four major types of neonatal seizure. One is subtle seizure, chronic seizure, tonic seizure, and myoclonic seizure. What is the most common type? Among the four major types, what is the most common type of neonatal seizure? Subtle seizure. So most commonest seizure in the newborn. So the coming slide, we are going to see detailed about each types. So subtle seizure. The clinical manifestation may be mild, often in this state. It's called as a subtle seizure. That's why it's called as a subtle seizure. The commonest type of neonatal seizure is about half of the all type of seizure. 50% will be subtle seizure. Again, it's divided into 5 subtypes. The subtle seizure will be the 5 subtypes: ocular, oculofacial, lingular movements, limb movements like pedaling movements, autonomic phenomena, and rare types will be apnea. So common example of subtle seizure: ocular, the tonic horizontal deviation of eyes, or sustained eye opening with ocular fixation, a cycler effect. These are the ocular type of subtle seizure. In orofacial lingual movements, chewing, tongue thrusting, lips maxing. These are the example of oral facial lingual movements. And limb movements, we already know: cycling, pedaling, boxing, chaps, and so on. So these are the example of limb movement types. And autonomic phenomena, tachycardia or bradycardia. Sometimes it's usually tachycardia or bradycardia. Apnea. It's a rare manifestation of seizure activity, particularly in term babies. Apnea due to seizure activity associated with increase or normal heart rate. And evaluate 20 seconds after the onset. Usually, apnea common in preterm baby is usually associated with bradycardia. In seizure type, usually in apnea due to the seizure is associated with normal or increased heart rate. Bradycardia may occur later due to the prolonged hypoxia. In preterm, there is a terminology they use apnea. This was cessation of respiration associated with bradycardia, color changes like cyanosis and other things. Here, apnea due to the seizure is usually associated with increased heart rate or normal. Then we are moving into chronic seizure. Rhythmic movements of muscle groups. Rhythmic movements of muscle groups. Both fast and slow components occur with frequency of 1 to 3 jerks per second. Usually associated with EEGs. So tonic seizure, sustained deflection or extension of axial or appendicular muscle group. Mostly focal or generalized. The newborn, more commonly focal. Generalized will be very, very, very rare due to the immature brain. So generalized will be rare, so focal will be common. So resemble decerebrate tonic extension of all 4 limbs, or decorticate, flexion of upper limb and extension of lower limb. No EEG changes in generalized chronic seizure. Myoclonic seizure. This manifests as a single or multiple lightning fast jerk of upper limb or lower limb. How will you differentiate from the clonic movements? It's a rapid frequency in myoclonic seizure. Jerk will be very, very rapid. The absence of slow component. clonic movements, there is a fast and slow power. In myoclonic, the absence of slow return. So the rapid frequency of myoclonic jerks and absence of slow returns. Common ECG changes will be burst suppression of patterns. Burst suppression patterns. Focal sharp waves. These are the common EEG changes in myoclonic seizure. Myoclonic seizure is the worst prognosis in terms of neurological outcome and seizure occurrence. The worst prognosis will be myoclonic seizure. The best prognosis will be focal clonic seizure. First will be myoclonic seizure. First will be focal. And we are moving into causes. Based on the duration, the dividing into first 4 days, 4 to 14 days, after 2 weeks, 14 days. The commonest will be the first 4 days will be HAE. It's the most common. Overall cause, the most common will be hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy. Others in intracranial hemorrhage, metabolic disorders are involved in metabolism. In metabolic causes, hypoglycemia, hypocalcemia, hypomagnesemia, hypernatremia, bile deficiency are infantile. The bile deficiency and infantile metabolism are rare. In 4 to 14 days, infection is to be more common. What are the common metabolic causes in 4 to 14 days? Hypocalcemia, persistent hypocalcemia. The benign neonatal conversion, development defect, cerebral dysgenesis, neuromigration disorder. That is a rare one. These are the common causes for neonate presented with seizure, the age of 4 to 14 days. 2 to 8 weeks, infection, injury leads to SAH, subarachnoid hemorrhage, child abuse, impediment of metabolism, malformation of cortical development, neurocutaneous syndrome. These are the common causes of 2 to 8 weeks. Other miscellaneous causes, polycythemia, maternal narcotic withdrawal, drug toxicity, theophylline, toxoplasma, theophylline and toxoplasma, seizure. Accidental injection of local anesthesia. So, if you give local anesthesia, if you accidentally injected more amount in the scalp, child will develop seizure. And benign idiopathic neonatal convulsions and neurotuberculosis sclerosis. So, when to suspect accidental injection of local anesthesia into the scalp? So, the fixed and dilated people. When child is fixed and dilated people, and the absence of Doll's eye reflex. So, we can suspect of accidental injection of local anesthesia into the scalp. When do you suspect benign idiopathic neonatal convulsion? When the child presented on multifocal clonic seizure on day 5 of life. Typical day 5 of life, they present with multifocal clonic seizure. Low zinc levels in CSF. Based on the cause of seizure, the good prognosis will be subarachnoid hemorrhage and late onset hypocalcemia. The worst prognosis, highest risk of adverse outcome, hypoglycemia, cerebral malformation, and maintenance. Based on the type, what is the best prognosis? Focal clonic seizure. The worst prognosis will be myoclonic seizure. Based on the cause, the worst prognosis will be hypoglycemia, cerebral malformation, and maintenance. The best prognosis will be subarachnoid hemorrhage, late onset hypocalcemia. So we are going to see about HAE. The HAE issue secondary to the perinatal aspects. The commonest cause for neonatal seizure. It accounts 50 to 65% of all types of seizure. Usually seizures start within first 12 hours. 70% of seizure will start first 12 hours of life. Rest 30% manifest usually by 24 to 48 hours. So what is the most common type of seizure in the HIE? Subtle seizure. Subtle seizure is the commonest. What are the other complications coexisting unit with perinatal asphyxia, hyperglycemia, hyperglycemia, or intracranial hemorrhages? So what is the commonest cause for neonatal seizure in the newborn? HIE. What is the commonest type of neonatal seizure in HIE? Subtle seizure. So next we are going to see intracranial hemorrhage. These intracranial hemorrhage secondary to the subarachnoid or intraparenchymal subdural hemorrhage, which commonly occurs in term units. Seizure secondary to the intraventricular hemorrhage is occurs in preterm units. Here, preterm commonly produced due to intraventricular hemorrhage. Term, subarachnoid, subdural, or intraparenchymal. So usually see this hemorrhaging seizure occurs between 2 to 7 days. So when to suspect subarachnoid hemorrhage? The well-term baby. So no complication, no issues. The well-term suddenly presented with usually at day 3 of life. We should think of subarachnoid hemorrhage. Best prognosis based on the cause subarachnoid hemorrhage. So we see causes, and we are seeing the common causes like HIE and intracranial hemorrhage. Now we are going to approach how to approach child presented, the newborn presented with seizure. As the golden rule, history, clinical examinations very, very, very important. So what are the history you will ask? Seizure history, you should obtain complete description of seizure from patient and attendant. Eye movement, regarding eye movements, each of episode by inflection, passive flexion affected, changing the color, like mottling and sinuses, autonomic phenomenon, whether the neonatal was conscious or asleep at the time of seizure. So these are the complete description of seizure which obtained from patient. The seizure is the important clue for diagnosis. The day of life, this seizure occurred. Really important clue. We already see that HIE, sorry, 70% of seizure will come within first 12 hours. So 0 to 3 days, common cause will be asphyxia, intracranial hemorrhage, or metabolic. On day 4 to day 7, sepsis is the common meningitis, metabolic cause. Antenatal history, intrauterine infection, torch infection, maternal diabetes, narcotic addiction. We should ask this of sudden increase in the fetal movement. It's a stem of intrauterine conversion. And prenatal history. Prenatal history are commonest cause for neonatal seizure. We should obtain the detailed history of fetal distress, decreased fetal movement, any instrumental delivery, needed for resuscitation in the labor room. What is the Apgar score? If they have ABG, abdominal cord defects, what is the cord defects? Waist defects. Perinatal asphyxia is the commonest cause. We should obtain all history. Then feeding history, again, it's important. So appearance of the clinical picture includes lethargy, poor activity, drowsiness, vomiting after initiation of breastfeeding, recurrent frequent vomiting, such as IEM. Presence of top reading for common field. Suggestive of late onset hypertension. Family history. We should ask history of conjunctive marriage. Family history of seizure or mental retardation. Merely fetal or neonatal death. Suggestive of IEM. History of seizure in either parents or sibling in the neonatal period. Suggestive of innate familial clinical condition. BFNs. And so once history is over, then we are moving to examination. Heart rate, respiration, blood pressure, CFT, and temperature. Then we should record gestation, birth weight, and weight for age. We provide important clue. Example, seizure in term and well baby. On day 3, we should think of coronary hemorrhage. And LGA baby. If seizure, we should think of hypoglycemia. And look for presence of dystrophic features or obvious malformation. Any other neurocutaneous markers? Jittiness. Jittiness is important differential diagnosis for seizure. So it's associated finding in seizure due to hypoglycemia or hypocalcemia. Then CNS examination. Bulging of AF, suggestive of meningitis or intracranial hemorrhage. Detailed neurological examination includes assessment of Parkinson's child disorder, that is alarm, drowsy or comatose. Tone, hypotonia or hypertonia. Then fundus examination. You should look for chorioretinopathy, torch infection. This picture is of toxoplasma chorioretinopathy. And then systemic examination. We should look for hepatosplenomegaly for torch. Presence of hepatosplenomegaly with abnormal urine order is festiva. Infant error of metabolism. Presence of hypopigmented macules or asclepic macules. Festiva. Tuberous sclerosis. So this is examination over. So then differential diagnosis. We have common differential diagnosis for seizure, subtle or motor reflex, jittiness, sleep myoclonics. Then investigations. We should do essential investigation for all neonatal seizure patients. We should check blood sugar, sodium level, and calcium level, CSF examination, cranial ultrasound, and EEG. So consider essential investigation all newborn neonates with seizure. Do CSF examination in all the babies because seizure may be the first sign of meningitis. Do not omit if another etiology present, like if you child have hyperglycemia. Again, the sepsis always a triad: hyperglycemia, hypothermia. So always you should do LP and look for meningitis. When we withhold CSF examination, when newborn presented with severe cardiorespiratory compromise, the child presented with severe blood asphyxia. Then indication for additional investigation based on the your treatment and your further monitoring, you can order additional investigation. When the additional indications is warranted, when the neonate does not respond to your treatment, first phenobarbital and phenotype therapy. Earlier, neonate with specific feature. So, what are the additional investigation you will order? CPR, MRI, torch screening, or immunorograph metabolism. So, do ABG if strongly suspect IEM. Additional investigation, what are the additional investigation? Hematocrit, if child look plethoric, serum bilirubin, if child look citric, magnesium, ABG, susceptible of IEM, lethargy, vomiting, family history. CT and MRI. No etiology after essential investigation, you can go for CT or MRI. Torch screening for congenital infection and workup for IEM. So imagine. So neurosonography. This is an excellent tool to diagnose intraventricular hemorrhage or parenteral hemorrhage. But it's not able to detect subarachnoid or subdural hemorrhage. So indication for CT, when you suspect subarachnoid hemorrhage in midterm neonates, neonate with IUI to identify intracranial calcification. Neonate with IUI, intrauterine infection. Identify intracranial calcification. So there are two indications for CT. What is the indication for MRI? HIE, any cerebral dysgenesis, lesion cephali, other neuronal migration disorder. EEG, conventional continuous EEG has both diagnostic and prognostic role in seizure. Do it in all neonates with seizure. What is the use? To confirm the clinical seizure, to avoid unwanted use of anticonvulsants, help the discontinuation of anti-epileptic therapies after symptomatic seizure. We will see in the later slide. Screening for congenital infections, torch screening and VDRM. Consider the above test only the presence of splenomegaly, thrombocytopenia, IUGR and chorioretinitis in the liver. The metabolic screening, if you suspect IEM, to blood and urine ketones, blood ammonium, anion gap, urine and plasma anion, aminospectrum, serum and CSF lactate and pyruvate. So these are the investigations. So based on your clinical and general examination, we can decide what are the additional investigation we need and we should do it for. Management of seizure. Now we are moving into the management. Important, very, very important management of seizure. Initial management, the first step for successful of treatment in seizure will be TENSU, TAP. Thermal, normal temperature we should make, airway, breathing, and circulation. So, neonate presented with seizure. So, what are the things we are going to do? We should identify and characterize the seizure, secure TAPC, and start O2 oxygen if needed, and secure IV access. While securing IV access, you take the sample for basic investigation and do the blood sugar value. And then after brief history and perform the quick clinical assessment. This you have done within a fast 5 minutes. So you should identify and characteristics of the seizure, secure TAPC, start oxygen if needed, and secure IV access and take blood sample for basic investigations and obtain brief history and perform clinical assessment. Then, if you are doing checking for your hypoglycemia and hypocalcemia, if hypoglycemia is present, so this newborn is defined as less than 40 milligram per deciliter. If you suspect or if you diagnose hypoglycemia, give bolus 2 ml per kg of 10D, followed by continuous infusion 6 to 8 mg per kg per minute. While we are taking the next hypoglycemia class, we will see the detail how to manage the hypoglycemia. So if you suspect or if your blood sugar shows very low, less than 40, give 2 ml per kg bolus of 10D, followed by infusion. Start 6 to 8 milligram per kg per minute. If blood sugar is normal, then you should draw sample of blood calcium, If blood calcium is normal, give 2 ml per kg of calcium 10% calcium gluconate. While giving calcium gluconate, you under cardiac slowly with proper cardiac. If hypocalcemia, once you give the bolus dose, then you should continue calcium gluconate 8 ml per kg per day for next 3 days. After that, if you diagnosed hypocalcemia, still season is persistent, then you should pick up magnesium deficiency. So you should give 0.2 ml per kg of 50% magnesium sulfate as an IM injection. Still season persistent or no hypoglycemia or no hypercalcemia, then we should give phenobarbital. The drug of choice for neonatal will be phenobarbital, 20 mg per kg. I will start over 20 minutes. If seizure continue, you can again load with another 10 mg per kg for dose until 40 mg per kg. If still seizure control after 40 mg per kg of phenobarbital, we can move into phenotide 20 mg per kg slowly bolus. After giving 20 mg per kg phenotide bolus, still seizure continue, we repeat 10 mg per kg per dose of phenotide. After 40 mg of phenobarbital and 30 mg of phenotide, still seizure persistent, then you can consider midazolam or lorazepam bolus followed by a midazolam infusion. After starting midazolam infusion, still seizure continues, we can consider other drugs like lidocaine, secondary antiepileptic drugs, topiramate, and other drugs. After the second line of antiepileptic drugs, still seizure continues, you can go for therapeutic trial of pyridoxine and excited transmission. After that, still seizure continues, the seizure control, then we antiepileptic drugs slowly to maintain maintenance. So, what are the last you add the drug? The first withdraw, wean. So, when you are going to wean, the last added antiepileptic drugs will be first wean. So, maximum we should maintain with only 1 single drug. So, consider levetiracetam and lidocaine as a second line agent in the case of a recent study on that. So, we are going to see about particular drugs, phenobarbital. The drug of size for neonatal seizure. The loadings of 20, then followed by 10 mg, then again one more 10 mg. So total up to 40 mg per kg. Maintenance dose will be 3 to 5 mg per kg per day, 1 to 2. The first line drug, what is the evidence-based recommendation? WHO guidelines of neonatal seizure recommended phenobarbital as the first line agent of treatment of neonatal seizure. Then phenotide. What is the indication for phenotide? After the maximum dose of phenobarbital, 40 mg per kg. Or the phenobarbital will cause respiratory depression and hypotension. And bradycardia occurs with phenobarbital. You can give phenotide. The dose again 20 mg loading followed by one more 10 mg. The repeat dose 10 mg per kg only in refractory seizure. Maintenance will be 3 to 5 mg per kg. Maximum we can go 8 mg per kg per day, 2 dividing doses. Avoid oral suspension in the neonates because very erratic absorption of the gut. Then fast phenotide. This is a prodrug for phenotide. Does not cause the side effect of hypotension and cardiac arrest. Very, very less compared to normal phenotide. Because the high water solubility and is likely lead to soft tissue injury when compared with phenatine. So dose will be 1.5 mg per kg phosphatase is equal to 1 mg of phenatine. Then benzodiazepines required up to only 50 to 20% as neonatal seizure. We commonly use lorazepam and midazolam. So lorazepam is preferred over diazepam. Why? Because the lorazepam is a longer acting drug and have less adverse effect than diazepam. And midazolam is a very, very, very important drug. And most of the uncontrolled seizure, we are using midazolam as an infusion. The faster acting than lorazepam usually will administer as the infusion, less respiratory depression and sedation than lorazepam. But while giving the midazolam, we need always monitoring of respiratory depression, apnea, and bradycardia. So equipment for resuscitation available at the bedside. So when you are giving infusion of midazolam, the bedside you are always to keep equipment of resuscitation. Other drugs, the dose is lorazepam 0.05 mg per kg IV bolus, midazolam 0.1 mg per kg IV bolus, followed by infusion you can start 0.12. You can go up to 0.4 mg per kg per hour. You can go up to 1 or 2 months. So how control rate of neonatal clinical seizure to anticonvulsant? If initial loading dose with phenobarbital is 40%. If you give total 40% of 40 mg per kg phenobarbital, the 70% of seizure will be controlled. Along with phenobarbital, if you give 20 mg, it's 85%. Lorazepam or midazolam, you can control the seizure up to 95 to 100%. So other drugs, levetiracetam, it's a good safety profile. So we can use as a first line or second line drugs. The advantage will be less side effect drug interaction. Seizure control will be 60% with loading dose of 50 mg per kg per day. This drug will potentially used to neonates. Other pyridoxine therapy, excited transmission therapy, if tractable seizure, we can try these things. What are the indication for excited transmission? Life-threatening metabolic disorder, accidental injection of local anesthesia, transplacental transfer of maternal drug, little bit encephalopathy. So once we treated the neonatal seizure, how we are going to maintain the antiepileptic therapy? So monotherapy is the appropriate strategy to control the seizure. Try to stop all antiepileptic drugs and wean the baby only to phenobarbital. The maintenance dose will be 3 to 5 mg per kg per day. So when you add second antiepileptic drugs, there are some indications. Seizure or uncontrolled or clinical toxicity appears. The second antiepileptic drugs, the choices varies from phenatine, carbamazepine, and sodium oxybate. So when to discontinue antiepileptic drugs? This is very, very important. This is very, very useful in your practices, private practices, and other things. When you are on antiepileptic therapy, we all antiepileptic except phenobarbital once seizure is controlled. Okay. Then we should perform neurological examination before discharge. If neurological exam is normal, stop phenobarbital. You can discharge a child without any antiepileptic drugs. If the neurological examination before discharge abnormal, you should continue phenobarbital for 1 month. Then ask the patient to come back after 1 month. Then repeat your neurological examination at 1 month. Again, if normal, you can taper the phenobarbital over the 2 weeks, then you stop. You should taper and stop. You should tapering will be usually 2 weeks. At 1 month of urological examination is abnormal, should be evaluated with EEG. Based on the EEG, we will decide how long. EEG will be normal. You can taper the phenobarbitol over 2 weeks. If EEG is abnormal, you can continue the phenobarbital for next 2 more months and ask the patient to come 3 months. So same thing. At the 3 months, we should do neurological examination. Based on that, we should decide when to stop this phenobarbital. Whether we need to continue. Intractable seizure needs lifelong therapy. Consider switching over to other drugs. Clear? Very, very important. Are there any doubts? Do you have any doubts? Thank you.